So in practice, boards in particular are concerned about risk governance and conduct risk and how it affects the continuing value of the organisation and protects reputation and all that. Now, what people were used to in the compliance space up to kind of 3 or 4 years ago was what I think of as econometric measures of regulation and measures of compliance. So you're used to doing like a cost-benefit analysis, a heat map, something very much with monetary values of risk attached. Conduct is quite different from that. It's looking at what is acceptable and expected behaviour. That's, for a start, it's not a binary thing or a monetary thing, it's a linear scale of values. How well along are we with our conduct risk maturity, some people say. I think that's quite a useful way of thinking of it. It's a road of progressing away from defining everything in monetary value and kind of risk-taking as a probability set, and looking at simple good behaviour between people in the workspace and in the sales space. So it's very much adapting towards the new behavioural economic thinking, because that is the stuff that informs the regulator. Now, a lot of people who do compliance stuff and kind of risk valuations in that conventional sense are a little uncomfortable with that. I absolutely understand that, which is why I wanted to present a very plain account that they could get to grips with, to install, if you like, this new way of thinking in their own work and to keep it simple. So what strikes me talking to people around the industry and on the regulator side and kind of globally among other regulators where they're using the same thinking now, is there's a deep level of anxiety. People who are used to being regulated using kind of econometric measures, stuff that they recognise with numbers and movements of cash and product spec, all that stuff, which of course still applies in the background, they're nervous about the sense that they're going to be monitored for their day-to-day behaviour, how they interact with other people. And in one sense they're right to be cautious, but there's no need for fear. People fear fundamental change, and just to be clear, this is a fundamental change in the way that regulation works. But rather than be very anxious about it, they just need to pipe in a little bit of the new thinking to their own day-to-day work. So what I've done is write a plain language guide based on hundreds of interviews with people about their experiences of getting stuff wrong, getting stuff right. And I listen always carefully to the way that people frame and make sense of their own experiences, the stories that they tell, the ordinary stuff that happens when stuff went badly, when stuff, we had a near miss and we had to fix that, all of these kinds of things. That, wonderfully for me, that pipes across into quite a strong set of stories which people will recognise, in their own experience and their colleagues and maybe sometimes their rival competitor organisations. But will help them to ground it in a sense of the day-to-day, good behaviour. One final thing on that, every employee, or pretty much every employee, brings with them a pretty well-developed, as human animals, a well-developed sense of intuition for what's right, what is good pro-social behaviour. And so often in large organisations, dumping big kind of checklists and formal systems-driven compliance requirements on people leads to these ordinary staff sort of feeling that they're switching off their intuitive sense of the right thing to do. What I'm showing is how you can pull that back together again. By all means keep using the sort of operational risk management control set, but also use your personal, highly developed human-animal skill, intuition, for knowing what's right. And most importantly, in a situation where something's not gone 100% right, to put a hand up and say, do you know what, we need to take another look at that and fix it and make it better. And in really simple terms, that's what conduct risk is about. And so the book gives you a whole set of techniques for applying that and embedding that thinking so it works in your organisation.